Here we go. Welcome to Not the Top 20 Podcast's Championship Playoff Preview, sponsored by Sky Bet and the Sky Bet EFL Building Foundations Fund. Him, George Ellick, me, Ali Maxwell, with a veritable dump of information and opinion to get you as excited and prepared for the Championship playoffs as we are. We have Hull City hosting Millwall in the first leg of the 6th versus 3rd tie on Friday night, 8 p.m. We have at 12:30 on Saturday, Middlesbrough hosting Southampton, 5th v 4th. And then the reverse fixtures are on Monday the 11th at 8 p.m, Millwall against Hull City. And Tuesday at 8 p.m, Southampton against Borough. That Monday, George, Monday the 11th, that's important for us. We've got something of an invitation for the listener.
Yeah, we are turning 10 years old. For the second time in our lives.
Amazing.
The first ever Not the Top 20 was released on the 11th of May 2016. So on Monday, we will be 10 years old. We're going to celebrate that by going to Philomena's in Covent Garden, a fantastic establishment if you've never been there before, to watch a championship semi-final, playoff semi-final between Millwall and Hull. So anyone listening who lives in London or in the surrounding area who wants to come, will be there. I guess from kind of 7ish, have a few drinks and a bit of a celebration and a bit of a party watching the football. So we'd love to see anyone who wants to join us. Very open invite. So please come along and celebrate our 10th birthday.
We will also extend the invite to anyone who doesn't live in London and its surrounding areas. Anyone who lives anywhere in the world that wants to come is more than welcome, and we'd love to see you there. It's a short notice thing. It's not the grandiose event that we had initially thought of, but we've got quite a lot going on, and the content comes before the live events, and there's been plenty of that, but it'd be good to see you next Monday. Do let us know if you're coming. Get in touch with us on one of various social media platforms. More housekeeping. We've already done our end of our final day recaps. They went out on Saturday night. So if you're wondering why we're not talking about the weekend action as we would ordinarily be after a weekend, that's because we already have. So if you still need to be caught up on what happened on final day, that episode is wherever you found this one on the same feed. But for now, we're going to go tie by tie. And then this is a hybrid show as well. It's both a preview show, but it's also a betting show. And we will be making some betting picks, maybe around the semi-finals if we have angles and stances, and certainly around the outrights as well. Both of us picking a winner for each of the three divisions. So, Millwall Hull. 3rd v 6th tie, the first leg at Hull, George, on Friday night. Now, both games between these two sides were away wins in the league, which is interesting to me anyway. And there were, after 46 games, 10 points between Millwall and Hull. You kick us off by talking to me about our third-placed finishers, Millwall.
Yeah, quite handy that I saw them with my own eyes on Saturday and was really impressed. It was a game that... going into the game, Millwall thought they had a chance of getting promoted on the day. Ipswich being 2-0 up after 9 minutes meant that they would have known, I can guarantee you, because the away fans made it very clear what the score was at Portman Road. They'd have known that wasn't going to happen, but even so, they were relentless and it didn't seep into their performance level whatsoever. They were very, very good on the day. So I feel kind of well-versed to talk about them at the moment. Their season has been interesting. They were many people's dark horses, I think, in the summer, given the strides they made last season under Alex Neil and the recruitment that looked pretty kind of joined up, and they've delivered on that promise, really. They have been a side that started the season well, have gone from strength to strength. They had a huge injury crisis in the middle of the campaign, which they rode out relatively well, given how bad it was and the fact they were having to play Alfie Doughty in centre midfield and other things. The fact they were able to maintain a performance level that kept the results towards the top end of the table. And then when the players came back, some maybe middling underlying numbers early on in the campaign, in the middle of the campaign improved, and the results improved too. Since the 1st of January, they've conceded the fewest goals in the league, just 17 goals in 22 games, which is obviously a very good platform to kind of go into the playoffs with. It is a little bit it's not necessarily in line with their XG. They're 11th for XG against in that time, but they are second for expected goals on target against. And I think there's probably something to do with the kind of defenders that they have in Cooper and in Kramer, and the way that they probably have more bodies between the shot takers and the goal than teams who play a high line would do, which probably means that even though teams are creating a lot against them, their ability to block those shots and have men in front probably impacts it. They're absolutely flying coming into the playoffs as well. They lost to Pompey 3-1 at home back on the 21st of February, which was a bit of a troubling result at that time. But since then, they've picked up 27 points from 13 games. They've lost just 2 of those games. One of the games that they lost was against Blackburn, where they were 1-0 up. And Zach Sturge was sent off. Blackburn scored twice. Sturge's red card was then rescinded. So, there is an asterisk next to one of the defeats anyway. And they've won 3 of their last 4 games. The defeat was away at Leicester. And, even though that was a damaging defeat in terms of their automatic promotion credentials, there wasn't really much in the game, or there wasn't much in the performance to be overly concerned about. And I was really impressed with them against Oxford in terms of the way that they approached it, and they were just totally dominant in every single way, territorially, the way they used the ball, the rare occasions that Oxford came forward, they were able to really hit them and punish them on the break. So
some X factor shown in that game by Femi Aziz.
Yeah, exactly. He's a huge outlet for them. He's someone who is he kind of represents what they are, I would say, where he's the style of play that we see Alex Neil implement at Millwall is kind of that hybrid style where they tend to not be heavy in possession. They don't keep the ball for the sake of it. They're not patient in possession, but they're also pretty aggressive out of it. And in Aziz, you've got a player who is more than capable and quick enough to exploit space in front of him and drive into those spaces. His delivery from wide is very good, but he's also a goal scorer. He's also someone that pops up from set pieces. He's a good finisher too. He's not a one-trick pony. He's someone who it feels like you can kind of put him into any system, and he'll on that right-hand side, and he'll be pretty useful there. I mean, I did a bit of a kind of data deep dive into Millwall's numbers this season to kind of really try and show the way that they play the game, because often when we're talking about teams at the top end of the table, it can be pretty samey. It's often high percentage possession, high PPDA, basically like high intensity, dominate the ball. With them, it's really interesting where they have a generally low percentage possession, 46.9% over the course of the season, and they're generally happy to have long periods of the game without the ball, as we've seen. And this can often mean that there are periods of games we saw against Middlesbrough in the game that they won 2-1. Even in the game against Norwich, they lost 2-1. They have kind of long periods within games where they can get a bit pinned and not really, not show too much from an attacking perspective. But it doesn't tend to matter too much because of the way they play. They always have joy in the break. They're one of the most, if not the most direct teams in the league. 43.3% of their passes are forward passing moves, which is the most of any team in the Championship. 14.6% of their passes go backwards, which is the second least of any team in the Championship. They put in the most crosses per game at 16.76, and they're the third lowest in the league for 10 plus passing sequences per 90 with 3.98. And the teams that surround them there are Oxford, Preston, Charlton, Derby, like the teams you would associate in the league with being the most direct. So I can't stress enough that they're not a team who necessarily want the ball, but when they have it, they're very efficient in terms of progressing into areas that are going to hurt the opposition. They're really aggressive out of possession. They rank 5th for PPDA alongside Southampton, Middlesbrough and Ipswich, and they rank 1st for high turnovers. So even though they're not a team that necessarily want the ball, they want to get the ball back and then use it quickly rather than wanting to get the ball and then control the game in possession. And their set piece record, as everyone will know, is sensational. They've only conceded 9 goals from set pieces this season, which is the second best in the league, and they rank 3rd for set piece goals and 4th for set piece expected goals. So they're just a really awkward opponent. They are excellent out of possession. They're very efficient when they have the ball. They don't concede many chances. They're brilliant in both boxes from set pieces. And for that reason, I think they're quite a good playoff team, and I think they're going to benefit from, whoever they play. That the whole game is almost the most awkward stylistically because they're playing against another team that won't necessarily want to dominate the ball compared to if they were to get through to the final. I think we'd have a better idea of how that game would look.
Yeah, I think from a stylistic point of view, and look, you might hear me say this about a few of the ties, but I'm genuinely throbbing with excitement about the EFL playoffs this season and the matchups that we have. I think the specifics of this one in terms of the two styles of play is absolutely fascinating. I'm going to talk about Hull, who have had an incredible season. It's been an incredible story. It kind of sums up everything really that we love about covering the EFL, and that's partly because we got them so wrong. I thought that they would go down this season. I thought they were in trouble. They stayed up last year on goal difference. The manager that sort of masterminded, if you like, their bare survival was Ruben Sayes, and then they sacked him. And they decided he wasn't the one to move forward with. In pre-season, they were under a transfer embargo. There was a lot of uncertainty around that, and I didn't like the feeling around the place. But within all that came big Sergej Jakirovic, who was appointed and made an instant impact. And when I say instant impact, I don't mean the first few games of the season. I mean pre-season. Obviously injected some of the most perfect vibes for the situation, got authority down nice and early, got a style of play down nice and early, got buy-in from the players nice and early, and the fans felt that. And I remember, when we predicted them to go down, a lot of the arguments that I had with Hull fans, or debates if you like, many of them friendly, some of them less so, the one thing that really stuck out to me as being like, wow, I have probably missed something here, was just, I promise you, in pre-season, we all feel that something has changed. We feel that this manager has come in and done something instantly. And I don't always put that much importance in pre-season. And I think sometimes you can feel good in pre-season and have a poor season, and vice versa. But I look back at that now, and it's clear that Jakirovic did whatever he did was perfect to start the season, start his tenure. He had a good record elsewhere in Bosnia, Croatia, Turkey, and he came in and made an instant impact. Now, when you can only sign frees and loans, you obviously need to get a few definitely right if you're going to improve your squad, your starting 11. And they got a lot wrong. They signed some players that haven't had much of an impact at all, but they got some big ones right. Ollie McBurney, signing of the season. If you consider that he was a free transfer, that he ended up, I think, the second joint top goal scorer in the league, but is not just a goal scorer, does so much more for the team. Joe Gelhardt, one of the loanees of the season. A couple of players from last season stepped up big time. Panda in goal, Egan and Hughes at the back, Slater, Coyle, Crooks, Joseph, Giles, all these guys were already there, and they were part of a poor Hull side, and now they've been part of a much better one. Couple of other additions like Lundstrom, Hadzimetovic, Ajayi, all brought in, and they've contributed, they've done okay. And at the end of January, Hull were third in the table, right? They had 16 wins in their first 29 games. Scoring plenty, yes, conceding plenty as well. They were the league's entertainers at that time, and they were the league's overperformers per the underlying numbers, both in attack and defence. Quite often you get a team that's massively overperforming in front of goal, and the defensive numbers are largely in line. This was a rare occasion where on both ends of the pitch, Hull's overperformance was basically top of the league, and that carried them a long way. So at that point, they had an 8-point gap to 7th. They ended up dropping out of the playoffs altogether before getting back in on final day. And that reflects the truth that the chickens came home to roost. They reaped and they sowed. And in the last 17 games of the season, only 8 teams picked up fewer points than Hull. 5 wins, 5 draws, 7 defeats, 22 scored, 26 conceded in that period. So for the last third of the campaign, they were a bottom half team. And in the last 12 games, they won only 3. They lost 5 and they drew 4, obviously doing what they needed on final day to punch their way into the playoffs. But that's how they got to this point. We have to say Jakirovic has been a fantastic appointment. He's a great manager for Hull City, got absolutely everything out of this group from the off. I think the style is a part of that, really attacking, almost like a carefree attacking style. I'm sure it's not carefree. That's not to say there aren't patterns involved and strategy involved in that. But when they watch them attack, they do look very off the cuff. They look like they have the backing of their manager to attack in numbers. And he looks like he empowers their attacking players to be exactly that and to cut loose. And so at their best going forward, they've been really, really exciting. Obviously, the last few months has been much tougher. They've been a little more stodgy, and I think it's fair to say that Jakirovic has struggled a bit to find solutions to the drop-off. Weirdly, getting players back from injury like Balumi and Liam Miller, their return hasn't actually made the team any better going forward, even though he has more options on paper. And look, this is why I think it's really interesting and why I think it will be an entertaining couple of matches, whatever the outcome, because they're not the strongest in midfield. They struggle to have much control on games. Their games tend to be quite open, and if they have space to attack into, they can properly hurt opposition. They can punch you in the mouth, but equally they do give up a lot of chances at the other end. So in terms of key players, they've got players back just in time for the playoffs, Giles and Hughes at the back. So the back four, likely Coyle, Egan, Hughes and Giles. Regan Slater, he's been big for them this season, missed a couple of games, but he's back and will likely be in midfield, maybe with Matt Crooks, John Lundstrom an option too. They actually have quite a lot of championship experience within this squad, as well as some younger kind of X-Factor guys, Gelhardt being one of them, Balumi another, Liam Miller will play off the left, McBurney up top. It's a great quad on paper, but so far in the last couple of months, those four have struggled a little bit to find the right balance. Off the bench, Kyle Joseph, Lewis Kumas, Kieran Dowell are the options at the top of the pitch. And just to note, Kyle Joseph was incredibly dangerous in both games between these two teams. And I do wonder if Jakirovic, although he's not considered as good, basically, as some of the others, I wonder if he might start Joseph with McBurney for that counter-attacking threat that he has with one of Gelhardt and Balumi off the right. We will see. I'm glad you brought up set pieces. This is stark. Millwall's set-piece goal difference, plus 16, as you said, scored 25, conceded only 9. Hull scored only 9 and conceded 15. A goal difference of -6 from set pieces. That's a 22 goal swing between the teams just on set pieces, which probably goes some way to explaining the 10-point gap between them. But it means that for Hull, every time Millwall set up a set piece, which they will from almost anywhere on the pitch, send Cooper and Kramer forward, they're going to have to defend with every inch of their lives.
It's interesting, hearing you talking about Jakirovic, because I'm always a bit, not for the first time this season, probably going to upset some Hull fans here, but if you look at kind of the underlying numbers as being what the manager can basically be held responsible for, right? So, because Jakirovic was on the shortlist for Championship Manager of the Month, Manager of the Season, and I think because of where Hull started the season and the expectations and where he's taken them, that was completely fair enough. But there have to be, so I find I've got to sit here and be like, massive credit to him for being able to turn this whole team into a team that finished in the top 6. But also like huge red flags around the fact that, if you look at the underlying numbers and you look at the XG data and everything else, then Hull are at best, a mid-table team. And that's not me saying that. That's just, those are the numbers that are put out by any kind of
and the results over the last 3 months.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So and I think often in playoffs, it's really interesting to look at the managers. And in the Championship playoffs this season, we've got 4 fascinating cases. You've got Jakirovic, who is this guy who came in that none of us knew much about, who's overseen this incredible season at Hull with the bad numbers that, if you're a Hull fan, you say are either nonsense or you ignore them. And if you're someone like us, you say, well, they're a bit of a worry, but maybe because it's been going on for too long, we can ignore it now. In Alex Neil, you've got the guy who is the most solid by miles of all of these 4 in terms of he has won promotions won a promotion out of the Championship before. He won a playoff campaign with Sunderland a couple of seasons ago out of League One. He has an incredibly strong record when he gets his teeth into a job, and that's exactly what he's done at Millwall. And then in the other game, as we'll get onto in a second, you've got these 2 guys who have come out of nowhere in Tonda Eckert and Kim Hellberg, and their managerial career could take them anywhere. It wouldn't be a massive surprise to see them doing anything in their future. But I do think, going into this one, having Neil on side, having someone where you don't have those kind of niggling doubts in the back of your mind, thinking why are the numbers so bad? And are they getting bailed out by good finishing and good goalkeeping? Is a big positive. And also in terms of personnel, it'll be interesting to see. Caleb Taylor's been out for the last couple of games, which meant that Tristan Kramer's come in at centre back and Leonard's been playing right back. Some talk that hopefully Taylor will come back in, which would be big for them. Denore is obviously a huge player for Millwall in the middle of the park and enables them, if they need to be a team that can get on the ball and play a bit. Coburn, another injury doubt, he's had a brilliant season. His return will be important because I think Millwall are at their best when they can basically hook off one of Ivanovic or Coburn at some point and bring on the other one for the last half an hour. So I'm pretty, it's Hull have been the team that have been proving me and you and anyone else wrong all season. But going into this, I do go into it pretty confident that if Hull do manage to get their way through, it'll be in the way they've done it all season, where they'll have to a few things will have to go their way. I'm confident that the Millwall will be the better team over the 2 legs.
I I agree. I mean, Millwall are really strong favourites. I think they're the strongest favourites of any of the ties across the three leagues, across the three EFL leagues. And instinctively, that aligns with me thinking that Millwall
2-5 with Sky Bet to qualify.
That's very, very strong favouritism. And from a betting point of view, it's too strong for me. I don't want to get with Millwall at those prices. There's a couple of things that would make me feel a bit wobbly backing Millwall at 2-5 to get through the tie. They've not looked good in either of their games against Hull. So, you can over-index on a small sample size of 2 games, but the 2 times these 2 teams have played, albeit they've both won one, the Millwall away win was a massive smash and grab, where actually it was Hull who were profligate in front of goal and leaky at the back. It was the reverse of most of their games this season. And even at the Den, when Hull won themselves, they probably deserved it. Millwall certainly didn't look very comfortable. So I think there could be something in Hull's style. And the fact that they basically want to go toe-to-toe with Millwall with a fairly similar style and system. And of course, they're at home first, which always gives the opportunity for the underdog, if you like, or the team that finished lower to put their best foot forward in front of their home fans. I think because I think it's going to be an open game. You mentioned that Millwall game against Borough, where they were so open early on because they're really gung-ho. They want to get after teams and they want to play forward quickly. And so that means if they give the ball away, it comes back at them pretty quickly as well when there's a good kind of opposition that are going to go after them too. I really think could be quite a high variance tie here where there'll be quite a lot of shots basically for both teams. And a lot of it will come down to who shoots better basically. And when you've got Gelhardt and McBurney and Bellumi, there's every chance that those guys have themselves a day, have themselves a night and give Hull a strong start here. So yeah, interesting tactically. Neither team really want the ball. Both of them want to attack quickly. Both of them want to press high. Both of them turn the ball over well and get chances that way. So I'm actually going to go for no bet here in terms of my betting pick. I expect that Millwall will progress, but I just want to watch this without an angle because I'd almost be tempted to back Hull to qualify at 7-4. And you go into that with your eyes open, knowing their deficiencies, knowing that they're going to face a lot of shots, but the feeling that this might not actually be the worst matchup for them at all. So yeah, it's no bet for me. As you can tell, I can talk myself into both. I would expect Millwall to progress.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to put up Millwall at 2-5 to qualify, but I would find it impossible to back Hull at 7-4. Having also watched the game against Charlton, knowing that against Norwich, there were huge periods of that game where they were under immense pressure against a team that had little to play for. But that won't be a surprise to any Hull fans listening who've had to hear us talk about this all season. And I mean, the way that I'd be looking to play this is BTTS no being the main one. Playoff semi-final first legs tend to be very low scoring anyway because they're very cagey. I mean, knockout first legs tend to be very low scoring. Apart from Bayern Munich against PSG, which wasn't particularly, but I don't think this is that kind of game. The fact that Millwall are the favourites to qualify and are the away team first and have an incredibly strong defensive record means that I think they'll go into this game looking to basically keep it solid and go back to the Den with a decent foundation to go and win the game, which they'll back themselves to do. So BTTS no. I also think even though Millwall are too short, 2-5 to bet to qualify, I don't hate the 13-10 about them to win the game in 90 here too. Just as I say, I think they're a stronger team and a better team, and I think there are huge concerns about Hull's form going into it, whereas I don't have those about Millwall. So my 2 plays would be Millwall in 90, Millwall in the first leg at 13-10 and BTTS no at even money. And
remember, betting comes with risks, so please make sure you're aware of them. And if you're thinking of placing a bet on playoff games or at any time, make sure you head to gambleaware.org and brush up on the risks that come with gambling first and foremost. Yeah, well, as well as enjoying the last few weeks of the EFL season, George and I have been really busy out filming over the last few weeks. As part of our work with the Sky Bet EFL Building Foundations Fund, we've been to Watford, Leicester, Coventry, Swindon. We've seen so much of the good work that's being done across the EFL by club charities, community trusts, foundations. And George, you were in Watford for their Golden Memories programme. Tell me about that.
Yes, great to go to Vicarage Road and hear about Golden Memories, which is an amazing initiative where Watford for the past 8 years, I think it is, have basically invited anyone who's suffering from dementia of any sort, so Alzheimer's or any other form of dementia, to come to their programme, which is held at the stadium, where there are various activities put on, from musical activities or talking about Watford's recent past with shirts and other things, some kind of physical and mental exercises that take place too. It's open to those who are suffering with dementia and their family members as well. And it became incredibly obvious very, very quickly that this has been a massive lifeline to people who are both suffering with the illness in various different forms and with very varying severity, but also massively. And this is something I think is often lost when it comes to so much charity work and foundation work, is the support that it offers to the carers as well, who are normally family members. We spoke to various different carers on the day, one of whom, Wendy, spoke to us, and she said that living with her husband who's got dementia, who they've been together for 50 odd years, is a very, very quiet life and a very lonely life, because her husband's nonverbal. So that therefore being able to go to Golden Memories, where she can not only, her husband can go and have some kind of have these activities put on for him to benefit him, but also enable her to be in a community and have like-minded people and other people who are going through the same experiences, has been clearly incredibly important to her. And she wasn't the only carer that we spoke to who spoke about this. Every time we go to these football clubs and we speak to the people who work there and the volunteers who work there, and we speak to the people who are being, every single week being helped by the work that's being done and the initiatives that are put on, it always hammers home just how massive a part football clubs play in the well-being of their local community. And it's not even necessarily, a lot of the people we spoke to had no affinity towards Watford Football Club. They're just local, but they're still able and welcomed to come and benefit from the work that's done there. So yet another amazing initiative. Great to spend the day there. Great to speak to the people. Thank you to the participants who did. We put out a video on our social channel today around the speaking to a couple of the carers there. So do go and check that out if it is of relevance or of interest to you. Yeah,
that programme, supported by funding from the Sky Bet EFL Building Foundations Fund, like so many others across England and Wales, of course, EFL clubs. And I think one of the big takeaways for me, we did some work with the Alzheimer's Society around the England-Wales friendly as well, with the England pod hats on, back at the end of last year. And then with the Golden Memories session that you attended as well, is understanding that the power of support for the carers as well. And I suppose it might just be worth mentioning that if you know anyone, friend, family, acquaintance, local neighbour, who's living with dementia, and therefore if they have someone caring for them, any support that you can offer that carer, even if it's an hour of keeping an eye on things while they go out for a cup of coffee. I think it's been so clear from talking to carers and seeing the videos that have been produced from that day, how massive that is, how impactful that is. And that would probably be our main takeaway, I guess, from George's attendance at the Golden Memories programme from Watford FC Community Sports and Education Trust.
Right, a quick look at the to be promoted odds with Sky Bet will tell its own story here, because we've spoken about Millwall and Hull. 9-4 Millwall to be promoted, Hull 6-1. And so despite the fact they're playing against each other, the two favourites for promotion still are Southampton at 15-8 and Middlesbrough at 2-1. So, the expectation is that the winner of this will be heavy favourites heading to Wembley. And Ali, you've been taking a look at Southampton, who are certainly the form team coming into it.
Yeah, outside of Lincoln City, the form team of the entire EFL. Thinking about the season as a whole, and do we even need to talk about the start of the season under Will still? Like, is it relevant? Is this the same team? Is this the same club? Is this the same players? Like, I don't recognise any of this from that. And that's because in the last 20 games, Southampton have picked up 47 points, well over 2 PPG. They've picked up 4 more points than anyone else in that time, Coventry in second. In that time, a 20-game period, they've scored more than 2 a game, and they've conceded less than 1 per game. And that is a heady combo, I tell you. I mean, this attack has gone absolutely crazy. And when you look at the players involved, it's not a massive surprise, but it is very exciting. And the manager at the heart of it is Tonda Eckert, who is the youngest manager in the entire EFL, 33, and 3 or 4 months. He's in his first senior head coach role, but he is, like a lot of managers that we've seen get into the game very, very young, someone that has spent basically his whole life coaching and trying to build to this point. And it couldn't have gone much better for him in terms of his start to management. In terms of what he's done and how he's done it, like, I really feel like the best thing he did was simplify the game plan for Southampton. They play a 4-2-3-1 system. There is a reason that system very broadly has been the system of choice for most dominant talent advantage teams in football over the last 20 years. And that's what Southampton have, even when they were in the bottom half. One of the things that made no sense is how that group of players looked so lost, looked lacking in confidence, couldn't execute in both boxes, and game to game were unable to put together any sort of consistent performance. They are far more effective now because Eckert has very simply just got the best out of the players that he has, and that is what it is all about. A very, very gung-ho mentality where they just attack and attack and attack. And I think that's probably the right approach to rub off positively on a group of players that maybe were lacking in a lot of confidence, but are better players than most players at this level that really should be dominating and winning games. And that's what he's managed to unlock. I'm talking about the players. Let me go through it. The back four, James Bree and almost said Liam Manning, Ryan Manning, the left back. Very, very solid championship fullbacks. Know exactly what this level is all about. Not massively spectacular, certainly not Bree in terms of going forward. Manning has that wand of a left peg, great from set pieces and a threat from range as well. The centre-backs, Harwood Bellis, he's been paired with a few different defenders during this run. Initially, Stevens and now Nathan Wood. But Harwood Bellis is an absolute star of the level. The double pivot in midfield has two of Flynn Downs, Shea Charles, and Yanda. Now, Charles and Downs are probably the ones with the best PR here, kind of league-wide, but Kasper Yanda has been absolutely brilliant, particularly over the last few months. It's clear that Eckert absolutely loves him, properly all action. They've also got a youngster called Cameron Bragg, who actually hasn't had much airtime, even though he has been pretty involved, particularly over the last few months, 21-year-old central midfielder through the youth system. Behind the striker, Tom Fellows off the right, Finn Azaz number 10, Leo Cienza off the left. It's just an incredible trio, and they are all currently playing in a way that shows their strengths and reduces their weaknesses. And up top, Carl Larin, Canadian striker, came in January. He's been excellent. Ross Stewart has come back from another long-term injury and has dipped in and out and scored some nice goals too. Cameron Archer has played, sometimes out wide, and over the last few weeks and months has scored some quite important goals as well, seems to have his confidence back. But the one player I haven't mentioned yet that I think is maybe one of the most important players in the league since January is Daniel Perez, who's their goalkeeper. And they signed him on January, and he's on loan from Bayern Munich. And he has the highest save percentage in the championship. And he's been an amazing shot stopper for them. And because of that, he exudes confidence, and that has flooded into the rest of the team. And previously, they looked so soft at the back, and they had the opposite of Perez in goal. They had someone that wasn't saving shots very well and wasn't injecting confidence into the team. I really think Perez is hugely important here, because one of the truths about this Southampton team, yes, they've conceded less than a goal a game, but they do give up chances. They are not watertight. They are not a lockdown defensive team. They will give you chances. It just happens that with Perez, so far, he has been keeping shots out at a very, very high rate. Other key players, I mean, Cienza is maybe the most fun player to watch in the whole league. Feels like a bit of a throwback, just an elite dribbler, to be quite honest. Amazing in tight spaces, can go both ways. Not the best at shooting from range, but has still scored some nice goals from the edge of the box. Fellows off the right, we know all about. We've been covering Fellows since he started playing, even on loan at Crawley and then at West Brom. He is now absolutely purring in terms of setting up chances and goals. And Finn Azaz, number 10, he's had some real swings, highs and lows over the last couple of years, but at his best, another goal and assist merchant, has been excellent recently. So, really interesting team, very, very dominant recently, and this game is an incredibly mouth-watering tie for the neutral, because Borough have been another team that we've talked about loads over the last few months who haven't had the wins and the points that Southampton have had, but certainly have a lot to discuss when it comes to Borough as a team.
I think this is so good. This two-legged game, this two-legged tie is going to be amazing, because they're like, Southampton are the team who have the amazing form coming into this. And, there was a bit of controversy around the EFL Awards time, because Tonda Eckert wasn't on the shortlist for Manager of the Season, and Kim Hellberg was. There is, if you're someone who looks at league tables and looks at bare form, then Eckert is clearly the manager who at the moment looks like the brighter prospect. However, I would say, personally, in my opinion, Hellberg is the one that I'd be more confident of going on to be elite, where Hellberg to me looks like one of the most exciting managers we've ever seen come through the EFL, and it wouldn't shock me in any way if he managed one of the European elite clubs in 5 years' time. So good has been his impact in terms of playing style and data. However, their results haven't been anywhere near as good as Southampton's. So it's, if you're someone that prioritizes results and thinks that results are the best gauge of a team's performance, then you are going to be all over Southampton here, and you probably won't be able to understand why they aren't bigger favourites. If you're someone that prioritises underlying numbers and thinks that the processes are more important, and that good numbers and bad form is just something that's going to iron itself out, then you have to go into this thinking that the Borough are the best team of the four, because their numbers and their form over the course of the last few weeks have been ridiculous. They've only won 2 of their last 10 games. One of those 2 wins was a 1-0 home win against Sheffield Wednesday, the worst team in the league. Another one of those wins was a dominant win against Watford, a team that had seemingly just given up the ghost at that time. So no wins in the 8 games otherwise, apart from the 2 teams you want to play the most at home. But the numbers in that group of games, as it has been basically the whole time under Hellberg, are like ridiculously strong. Their goal difference, right, from the 10th of March onwards, they have a negative goal difference. However, they rank top in basically every single metric in terms of XG ratio, in terms of non-penalty XG ratio, open play XG ratio. They have outshot their opponents by 9.7 shots per game in that time, and touches in the box 23.4. Like, the dominance in terms of territory that they have over the opposition and chance creation, everything else. Like, going back to our conversation in the Hull Millwall game, if you judge a manager by the processes to get into dangerous areas and stop the opposition from doing so, and you ignore the finishing and you ignore the goalkeeping, then Hellberg is like a genius in terms of what he's been able to do. But then I know there are people out there, and it'll be all over the YouTube comments, like data skeptics, who are like, well, this is why XG is rubbish, because like that might all be the case, but they're still not winning games. And yeah, fine. If that's your way of thinking about things, then possibly that's true.
Would it be fair to say that part of this conversation, something close to a conclusion, would be, if ignore what you expect the result to be, if you expect that Southampton will dominate one or both of these football matches, you might be quite surprised by how this actually looks. Yeah,
I guess so. Especially that I think the home tie. I mean, the last time these 2 teams played at home, Borough beat Saints 4-0, which was kind of the beginning of.
Because it is also true that Borough have had some issues as individuals in front of goal.
Yeah, for sure.
It is true, I think, fairly definitively, that Southampton have better players than Middlesbrough.
I would definitely agree with that, for sure. But then that, apart from finishing, that should all be played out in the data. Like, if you're saying they've got a more creative midfield, well, that should lead into chance creation and shots and XG, rather than the finishing is different, for sure. And we've seen Conway have long spells of poor finishing, but like they come into the playoffs with Whittaker back, who's important for them from a goal scoring perspective. Conway, who seems to be, judging by his career so far, an incredibly streaky goal scorer because of his confidence, and he's in a good moment right now. Strelets, who's been a disappointment for most of the season, but now seems to finally be kind of taking up those positions in the 6-yard box and profiting from the chances that the Borough do create. However, as I say, it's only 2 wins from their last 10. The football itself is different to what we see a lot of ball dominant teams play. It's not patient possession football. It's high intensity. It's direct football. It's encouraging players basically all over the pitch to take risks, and those risks aren't only in terms of on the ball, but off the ball too, in terms of the runs that they make, the overloads in wide areas, the way that they completely flood the box at any opportunity to do so. like really positionally fluid. I'd almost say the Malander, the centre back who came in January, kind of typifies them. Like a really good defender, brilliant on the ball, prone to a clanger.
Yeah.
It's like, this is kind of what they're all about.
High risk, high reward.
And a key thing, it's really hard to preview these games without knowing what kind of a part Hayden Hackney's going to play, because he was the player of the season. He's the best player in the league. He will be playing Premier League football, I think, next season, regardless of what happens over these 2 games and at Wembley. He reportedly hadn't been training ahead of the final game of the season, but before the game, Hellberg said that there is still the hope and expectancy that he will play some part. Like, it wouldn't be a massive surprise to me to see Hackney suddenly in the starting lineup here. It also wouldn't be a massive surprise to me if he wasn't in the squad. Like, we don't know, and I think that understandably Borough are going to keep that incredibly quiet ahead of the game. But Whittaker's return from injury has been important. Aidan Morris, I think, is one of the most unheralded players in the league, because not only is he a terrier out of possession, but he's also pretty good on the ball. Riley McGree's been an incredible player for Hellberg, as is Alan Brown, playing these kind of weird hybrid roles. Although Brown's kind of come back into midfield since Hackney's been out. I love watching them play. They are like an incredible watch, and I'd be very surprised if we didn't see them put the middling form in terms of results over the last few weeks behind them. I think often we've seen it a few times where you can get really sucked into looking at form before a playoff campaign and thinking that's how they're going to turn up, when I think because of the magnitude of these games and the way that clubs are able to prepare for them, you often see a completely different team turn up for the semis. Like Walsall last season was a big example of that. Sunderland obviously last season was a big example of that. Like, it can just be a bit of a reset, and it's like, okay, that's done. We now have 2 games against Southampton. Let's prepare for it. And I think Borough could surprise a few people if they think it's going to be easy for Saints.
Yeah, mouth-watering. Lou Warnes, friend of the pod, wrote a really good tactical preview on his Substack. I liked how in the intro he said it's not going to be a super long, in-depth tactical piece, because if I'm honest, boring. I find those quite boring.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, yes.
Yes.
He pitched it perfectly. I got a lot from it, and he framed this as Southampton with game-breaking players in a simple tactical framework. Not to say that simple tactical frameworks are a bad thing. And Borough, a game-breaking system with typical top-half players outside of a couple of individual exceptions. That is the sort of framing that makes me froth at the mouth, as is how you've just laid it out. I'm pretty excited about this one. In terms of, I've got a betting angle here. I'm going to go for over 2.5 goals at 11 to 10. I know that in general, historically, trends-wise, first legs of playoff semi-finals are cagey. I really feel like the football being played in the Championship this season, the football meta, if you like, and all 4 of the teams involved are part of this, kind of prioritises transition football, quite a lot more space than ever before, individual players with more space to play into. And I really think that with both games, both teams in both games are going to have a mindset of, we still want to attack here because we're at our best when we attack rather than when we defend. That's certainly the case for Southampton, certainly the case for Middlesbrough, the case for Hull, no doubt about that. Millwall probably would say that as well. So I think that over 2.5 goals in both semi-finals is a bit of value. It's 11 to 10 for Middlesbrough Southampton. It's even money for Hull Millwall. You've obviously gone BTTS no Hull Millwall, so you don't see it the same way. But that's my stance for the Championship playoff semi-final first legs. A single on over 2.5 goals in Middlesbrough Southampton, 11 to 10, and at even money in Hull Millwall with Sky Bet. And a small play on the double at odds of 4.2, so just better than 3 to 1, the over 2.5 goals double. There's a lot of hope tied into that as well, because as you can tell, pretty excited about these games, and I do hope they are as exciting as I think they might be. In terms of an outright pick, I'm going with the player quality, the simple tactical system and the incredible player quality that Southampton have. I've watched a lot of them over the last couple of months. That it only helps their cause, in my eyes, that they were exceptional in one-off cup ties against Arsenal, against Manchester City. I really think they're well set here, and I'm going to pick them to win the playoffs. 15 to 8 with Sky Bet. They are the favourites to do so, so not the most exciting pick, but I'll make up for that in League One and League Two, I promise.
Yeah, for the Saints Borough, my bet is Borough to win the first leg at 5 to 4. I just, as I said, I think Borough might surprise a few people. I'm surprised they aren't closer in the market. And it's hard for me not to side with a team who, as per underlying numbers, are just by far the best team between the two, even if Saints' results have been better. There's also an element to this that because Southampton have the home leg and the second leg, I don't think they're going to be overly concerned if they end up going to St Mary's 1 goal behind. Like, there's a kind of game state factor here where that isn't the worst result for them. 5-4 about Borough in the first leg is how I'm seeing this. And in terms of the outright, I'm gonna put Millwall up at 9-4, purely because I think they'll get through, and I reckon in this, given the way that they play and how awkward they'll make it for both Saints and Borough, I think there'll probably be a bit of value in the final as well, with the favourite likely being a bit overbet. So I might revise that when it gets to the final, but at the moment Millwall 9-4 I think is the best way of, or the best value of getting a runner in the final. So that's the way I'm playing it.
Okay, Championship playoffs previewed. Let us know in the comments what you reckon. Friday 8 o'clock Hull Millwall, Saturday 12:30 Borough Southampton, and then the return legs on Monday the 11th, which you can watch with us in the centre of London at Philomena's in Covent Garden. Monday the 11th of May, come and celebrate our 10th birthday with us, please, and we'll watch Millwall Hull second leg, and we can all laugh at us when Hull beat Millwall 6-0 on aggregate. And Tuesday the 12th is the second leg of Saints Middlesbrough. We'll be doing our best to drop some recaps during the semi-finals, and of course we'll be previewing the playoff finals as well when we get to that point, with thanks to Sky Bet and the Sky Bet EFL Building Foundations Fund. Wherever you found this one, you'll find a similar preview for Leagues 1 and 2. Go well!